Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. As Robert mentioned, this is a success stories panel. So unlike yesterday's early morning panels, there'll be no bones of contention. There'll be no grades at the end or arguments over who did what the best. These are all just beautiful success stories from this year. And hopefully they'll inspire people in the room to be able to take these things back in and at least start a creative conversation with your people about what you could do at your track or in your business to increase the success. And I think the presentation that Nathan just did was a very good indication that this is 100% possible through ways that we've never considered before. So I'm going to introduce my panelists first. At the end, Ian Cummings, he's the founder and CEO of Third Time Games, also known as Third Time Entertainment. In the middle, Bryan Pettigrew, Vice President and General Manager of the Texas Racing Operations for PENN Entertainment Incorporated. And next to me is Ashlyn Moore, Vice President of Equestrian Operations at First Racing. We're going to begin, each of them have a presentation, so we're going to begin with Ian Cummings, who will give you a presentation about what he's doing. Not only is he the founder and CEO of Third Time Games, now he actually started working for EA, Electronic Arts. I think it's actually Electronic Addiction, but they go with arts. While still in college, he was a game tester, and he was one of the first games that he tested was Madden NFL. He went on to serve as the creative director for Madden NFL 10, 11, and 12, and Ian is the one who developed the well-received and very popular hit stick on the Madden game. He left EA in 2011 and started Third Time Entertainment in 2015, and in between, there were other gigs in gaming, but ultimately, you're here today because the Racing Symposium really admired your photo finish live. It's described by you as the most authentic horse racing game and ecosystem where players can make real money on virtual horses, and it was one of the games that Nathan talked about just a moment ago. So Ian, take it away.
Thank you. There it is. So I will stand up, it's a little easier. It's amazing seeing Pretty Derby. I guess I should have made an anime girl horse game. I tried my best, but the second column, that's my game, Photo Finish Live. So I am the founder of Third Time. I did work at EA Sports for a long time. Our studio is an official license holder with Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby. And I'm here today really to talk a little bit about photo finish has kind of quietly become one of racing's success stories. You know, I think we've done a really good job at attracting young fans and finding a new audience altogether. And, oh yeah, I do need the clicker, thank you. Yeah. Which one? Top middle, okay. But before I get into that, I think this really dovetails with Nathan's pitch here. I want to share a little bit of a story. So I grew up in a small town in Tennessee. Long before we had an NFL team. There were no Titans, there was no Red Zone channel, there was no internet, there was no access. And if you wanted to know anything about the NFL or professional football, you really kind of had to imagine it. You had to go get the newspaper until one Christmas, I got my copy of Madden. And you're welcome for that picture. I sacrificed my dignity for all of you to really feel like I was a credible speaker. But with Madden, a whole universe opened up to me. Nerdy kid, as you might imagine. I learned rosters, I learned playbooks, I learned rivalries, I learned stadiums, and I knew depth charts of teams that I'd never once seen on TV. These games didn't entertain me, they also educated me. And I became a Giants fan, for example, purely because I got a lot of sacks with Lawrence Taylor. I still own a Mark Bavaro t-shirt from that era. Any Mark Bavaro fans? No? There we go. But so one of those kind of really crazy full circle moments. Here's some random old video from way back in the day. I did land a job at EA Sports. I was still in college. I worked my way up to the creative director of Madden. I spent 10 years building that game, and it really taught me the same thing of just sort of football as a game can on-ramp a whole new generation, just like any sport can. And when I left EA to start my own studio, it was really about that same message, that same knowledge, that to be true to the sport and new fans can be made along the way when you provide a unique experience in a video game. So we built a mobile game. It wasn't on this list because this came out in 2015, but you saw a lot of similar stats to what Nathan showed, which was extreme high amount of players, so 15 million downloads of that game. We were rivaling Madden, which was wild. You know, I think a lot of people would love to have a horse racing game as successful as Madden. We had that at the time. And the pattern really repeated itself. You saw it in Nathan's stats. 80% of those players were under the age of 40. It was a very even mix of male and female. As we sort of moved into the real money side of things on the games, you know, we started to see a lot of these people did not have a connection to horse racing, and they were just investing and getting more into it. This is one of my favorite ones of a guy that has spent, you know, 6+ figures on digital horses who had no idea how the sport worked. We had a big meetup at the Derby. Many of them were asking me how to place bets. They had no, what's an exacta? You know, they had no idea. These guys were there, had flown from Singapore to figure it out. So again, a new generation learned through play, right? This is how you can get a lot of people into a sport through a video game. And as that audience matured, you know, they were really getting more into the real money side. That's what led us to Photo Finish Live. And I will talk just a little bit about that. That's why I'm here as the success story. So Photo Finish Live launched in April 2023. It has processed over $55 million in racing, $45 million in sales, so just crossed the $100 million mark, which is still wild to me on digital horses. I mean, these people are selling and buying and racing for real money and have done so at quite a large scale, much more than our previous mobile games. And this is, you know, why this matters is it's not theoretical anymore. You know, this is really like an actual proof point that these are real users at real scale, and it's impossible to ignore. Young fans do love the competition and the adrenaline of racing. And I think what's happening, though, is they do not love the systems around the real sport. And I'll talk about that a little bit. I might have frozen here. So there's something around this notion of modern fidelity. And you can ask any college student or young person, every year sports gets cooler. There are more and more cool things happening in real sports with data, with analytics, with 3D graphics, you name it. So I grabbed these two things just as a show. The ESPN show reel of college football's branding versus a race that's happening, not to pick on any track or anything. One single camera shot, never changes. You don't know who the horses are. You can't see them. The graphics are extremely outdated. Fonts are from the 90s. You know, this is stuff that, again, like a normal young person will tune out. These aren't minor inconveniences. They're friction points. And this is a generation, you have to recall, that is raised on video games. They are into instant updates. They want the clean interface. They want live data everywhere. They trade stocks. These people gamble at insane rates. They actually trade meme coins. They bet inside every app that's out there. Every day a new person turns 18 and gets into FanDuel or gets into Robinhood, right? And so I think they just get to that point where they expect this modern fidelity in everything they touch. And when racing doesn't behave like that, the rest of their digital world, they're going to not complain, they're just going to disengage. They're just not going to stay with it. And it's really funny, though, how as a video game developer, I'm really not all that different from the track operators. You know, I have the same question that everyone does, which is, who's going to fund my purses, and where are the next generation of users going to come from? But there's three things that give me hope. And there's proof that you can see even Pretty Derby. They are out there. Number one, they're there. Number two, they like the sport. They love the competition. Those are the things that I know for a fact are true. And so for me, the solution was not to reinvent racing. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have gone anime horse girl. But I stuck with the authenticity angle of making horse racing as real as I could make it. And trying to make that in a new layer, though, a new presentation layer that actually made a system that these users were accustomed to. This is just an example. You know, we do simulations, for example, for NBC, for the Derby itself. These types of 3D simulations we can do at any time. We make them and show the race in different angles and in different ways that other people can't. And these are the types of things that I think the modern fan is used to. So all this to kind of lead into the real money side. As our real money ecosystem scaled, we saw the same problem that you all are seeing, which is lack of transparency on the tote, the lack of ability for people to see odds updates in real time. And so we actually built our own system, and I thought it'd be cool to share with some of you all because I think it's actually applicable to the same problems that you're solving. We called our system Open Tote, and this wasn't a business strategy. This wasn't any kind of move for me to go topple the giant multi-billion-dollar industry. It was just the foundation for our game to be responsive and to be credible. And so, for example, our Open Tote system processes 50,000 transactions per second. They're live, publicly shown on the blockchain, fully transparent. This utilizes stablecoin infrastructure, things that can really bring the response to the next level for the end user, because that's what they're used to, 40 millisecond return times for them to know the odds updates as opposed to 30 seconds, the things that are actually happening in real life. And the transparency of betting volume. You can actually see with our tote when late money comes in. You would know a call has landed, and you would be able to see that. And what that also does is really compelling graphical treatments. So if you look at the bottom, that's our odds updates, for example. They're actually happening in real time with spark lines and charts. I just think so many of us are sort of accustomed to how horse racing presents itself. When you walk by and you look at the 4 boxes with the colors and you say, oh, okay, that's a 2 and that's a 7 and that's a 9/5, I think we're just used to that. And you have to realize that that's a really big turnoff for a lot of people that are used to DraftKings or FanDuel or that high-end sportsbook. And so the presentation layer, I think, has just really fallen behind the times. And so I'm here today really just for that reason, talk about Photo Finish Live. I'll wrap up here. I genuinely believe that the future fan of horse racing is created in digital environments first. And just like I was with Madden, just like Nate was and all the people he talked about with Pretty Derby, the games are really where that curiosity becomes the understanding becomes the fandom becomes the participation. And if any of this resonates, just want to continue a conversation with me, please feel free. I'd love to meet with folks in the real industry. I've been in the digital side forever. Hit me up on LinkedIn, drop me an email. Thank you.
Ian, before I let you go, first of all, I want to make a quick comment. One of the other things that he did with Photo Finish Live that's pretty genius is he realized that pretty soon his horses were going to run out. So he started introducing Pettigrew, and so now he's got people on the interface who are breeders, and they don't necessarily race horses. And so he's made it so that you can stay in there for the long haul. But I do have a quick question for you. With Churchill Downs, how did that come about? Because it's sometimes hard to get a relationship with these upper-level racetracks. Did you approach them, or did they approach you?
Yeah, the Churchill relationship was a long slog to get that to actually happen, but it really started with the NBC deal. So being able to do those simulations for NBC gave us credibility, and that got me the meetings, and then it took 18 months of meetings to convince them that I was the right partner. So yeah, definitely difficult, but I think the Madden background, the NBC deal, that was really, just showing that we would treat the brand with respect.
And was any of that your goal when you started, or was that just, it evolved to that?
Yeah, just organic, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right, thank you, Ian. Bryan Pettigrew is up next. A lot of you in the audience know Bryan because he's been around for a very long time. He's now the Vice President and General Manager of Texas Racing Operations for PENN Entertainment. Bryan runs the day-to-day operations of Sam Houston Race Park in Houston and Retama Park in San Antonio, and he works with the Texas horse industry to develop new customer growth and retention. His career spans 30 years in sports and entertainment, with particular emphasis on horse racing management and marketing. He's also held senior marketing positions with Breeders' Cup and the NTRA. He joined PENN Entertainment in 2023 and has overseen the return of concerts, festivals, and major events at both racetracks. Bryan's current challenge is getting young executives to the racetrack in Texas. And for more on that, let's hear from Bryan.
Thank you, and good morning. 18, how long did you say, 18 months for Churchill? That's pretty quick. Consider yourself, that's lightning fast, actually. But good morning. I appreciate everyone being here this morning. Thank you to Dave, to the University of Arizona for having us here, and Robert, thank you for putting on a great conference. I feel like all the time in the past we kind of dwell on some of the negatives. I think we need to be aware of them, but there are a lot of positive stories like you're hearing today, and ours in Texas is no different, but it's got a little twist. our Texas Horse Society was started by the Texas Horse Racing Hall of Fame and a 98-year-old Mr. Strauss, Joe Strauss, that comes into the office every day in San Antonio, and he said we need to do some things to attract younger audiences. So the first thing we did is we came up with just how we were going to achieve that, and that was with research. Then we wanted to figure out how to put it into action at the tracks, and then also how to expand it. So we conducted 4 group surveys in Houston, Fort Worth, and Dallas, 2 different ones there. We always kind of joke about that because they are different. Even they share an airport, but they're very different. So we did one in Fort Worth, a group get together and research there, and then also in Austin. And Austin doesn't have a racetrack, but it's very progressive. There's a lot of university students there, young adults there, and so it's also about an hour from San Antonio, so we wanted to hear what they thought about horse racing. We met with them in small groups, and then not at the tracks. We went to them. We met with them in these different clubs around town, did the research. They had a QR code. We got several respondents, and the main thing is we didn't want to be guessing. And you know, I'm in my 50s, Mr. Strauss is 98. We have no idea what a 21 to 25-year-old wants to do at the races. So we were asking them, and these are some of the things that came back from our research. Some of it is, some of it is not surprising, but what I would say we found most interesting was how aggressive and how the girls were, they wanted to learn betting. They would tell the guys, we make as much money as you. We're just as smart as you. In person, they would tell us this in the meetings, and they want to learn. And I think that's one of the definite positives about this research and about Texas Horse Society is how many of these young people want to be at the events and at the races. I'm just going to run through some of this. These are some of the slides that just kind of show what we were asking them. But you know, the one thing they wanted is a special place. They didn't want to sit with their parents. They wanted music in the suite. We added music. It was kind of interesting to watch our other suites on our big race days reacting to a DJ in the suite, and you really can't hear a lot while you're in there, but that was the vibe they wanted. We gave it to them. They also just wanted to go behind the scenes and kind of have a better understanding of what takes place behind the scenes. So we gave them tours of the stable area, the paddock area, and it takes about 10 people on our staff to take them all around. They come in a large group. They get their own party bus to come to the tracks, and once they're there, we try and give them everything for 3 hours. So we try and cram it in a 3-hour time frame. Let me see. Yeah, so these are some of the things that, again, they were saying different things than we would have assumed. They wanted a nice brunch experience on the weekends. The music was another thing. They also want everything, obviously, everyone knows that they want it via mobile. So we started to enhance things that we were doing. We started pushing out our handicapping tip sheets on mobile. They you know, I don't say this negatively, but they don't want to talk to people. They want to read it on their phone. So we were giving them what they wanted via phone. We also started changing some of our advertising techniques, and we used Grand Slam Social to help us with our social media, and we're pushing it out on TikTok and Instagram differently than we normally do. We also learned that a lot of what these younger adults, they want to share what's going on, where they are, and a lot of their friends will then comment or try and meet up with them. In our research, we found that tailgates and pregame were a big thing. They think of it as a sporting event, college football, professional football, and they want to tailgate. We would have to tell them, we told them, you know, that only takes place at really Keeneland that I'm aware of, that people tailgate before the races, but they made up their own tailgate. They got together, they met up for their bus ride over to the races, and then they came to the track, and we started introducing them to the betting. We had younger handicappers that were there with them to teach them how to bet. But we were actively going towards them and what they had requested. This was this is just a recap as we started kind of going through the research. And then as we started to build out the events, they also didn't want just racing. They wanted to, a lot of their questions would come, and everyone in this room knows it, but I mean, they want to know, they ask questions about horses' racing careers, how long they are, what happens to them after their race career. So we would show them and tell them and introduce them to some of the different aftercare and therapeutic riding centers in Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas. And interestingly enough, so the Horse Society has now taken on a life of its own. They have a membership fee. I'll tell you a little bit about that later, but they have a membership fee, and part of their membership they want to give back, and part of what they're giving back to is therapeutic riding and the aftercare. That was first and foremost on a lot of their minds when they came to the races. But as I said, they don't want me taking them around the paddock, so we started bringing in people like Janet Van Beber's daughter, my son, other people that have been around racing, the Steinbow boys, and one's a trainer, and they've grown up around racing their whole life, people that were their age to take them on the tour. We also explain to everybody what we wanted them to see, the paddock, the stable area, and then going into the winner's circle. We target our big race days. We do quarter horse and thoroughbred in Texas, so we, at each of the racetracks, they host different days for the Texas Horse Society, one thoroughbred, one quarter horse. And then, as I mentioned, this year they will start doing some things outside of horse racing, like rodeos, polo. I think Caitlin's going to have them at a horse show in Houston. But it's also started paying off, and the return on our investment is paying off because they're starting to bring their companies out and their clients out to the track. And that was not one of the things we were anticipating right off, but it's been very positive. They've also gone to the Derby. They do these things on their own. We connect them to Churchill, and everybody has to pay. We connect them to Del Mar, and they get some special VIP treatment at Del Mar, but they are attending those races, and they're doing that on their own outside of what we coordinate. Just some of the next steps is their membership I mentioned. They're starting to invite influencers and folks that live in Houston to come to the races with them. I mentioned that they're doing the charitable giving and like an annual give back to the horse industry, that they think that's important. We've also had My Racehorse at a couple of the events, and they'll stand right there and buy $500 in shares while we're standing there giving them a presentation on My Racehorse. They stand there, buy, and then they ask, is this the right, did I do this correctly? And we're like, you bought it, So, but it's good to see how quickly you have to have the information on the phone and available for them. But also, this is a look at their dates in the 3 different cities that they'll be going to this year. As I mentioned, they'll have a thoroughbred racing day, a quarter horse racing day, and then they do some things outside of it. I say the next some other next steps are just working with the industry, and also having some reciprocity and where they can call, almost like a concierge service, but so they can call other tracks when they want to go to Keeneland or Churchill or Gulfstream Park. But those are some of the things we're working on in the future. Also sponsoring, just getting different sponsors to come on board that want to work with these this age group. We get about 60 to 100 people to each of the race days, and they're expanding every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. So I will try to open it up at the end for a couple of questions. We're actually running over time right now, but one of the things I want to mention from your presentation is for those men in the audience who don't know this yet, women are detail-oriented, and we also like great stories. And so you're doing that. You're giving them great stories, and then you're also giving them resources to learn the details. For instance, I like the idea of football, but if I watch a football game with my husband, I want to know why that's a flag on the play. And my husband's not detail-oriented, so he'll always say, I don't know, sweetie. And for me, that's not enough, right? So we want to know more, and Bryan, it's really important what you are doing is that you're giving them the resources to learn, so thank you.
Definitely.
Okay, so now we're going to hear from Ashlyn more, but before we hear from Ashlyn, I do want to mention that one of the reasons why we invited Ashlyn from First Racing here is because of what just recently happened in France, where France Galop was awarded 3 different marketing awards. And this was overall, like just marketing in France of any product whatsoever, because they did a 2-day installment where they essentially dropped horse racing into one of the main squares in Paris, and they had demonstrations, they had autograph signings, they had meet and greets, and they did this for 2 days. And so people who were just in Paris could come over and see what was happening, and it brought people to the racetrack. It also exposed people to the sport who otherwise would never have seen it. You all are doing something similar with First Racing, but before I have Ashlyn talk about it, I want to tell you a little bit about her. She is the Vice President Operations, First Equestrian at First. Ashlyn is responsible for the expanding portfolio of equestrian sport initiatives with a focus on integrating future world-class horse sport experiences in First venues. She oversees the operational aspects of the company and the current elite equestrian partnership with Split Rock Jumping Tour, and is an integral part of the Los Angeles 2028 Olympics and Paralympic Games host venue planning team at Santa Anita Park. Ashlyn's 10 years of industry experience span breeding, racing, and executive operations and event management for First premier entertainment brands. She's an avid rider since the age of 7 and has competed internationally in saddle seat and brings a deep, lifelong connection to the sport that enriches her perspective in this role. Ashlyn.
Well, thank you, Donna, and welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to be here talking a little bit about the new initiatives from First that we're building in the equestrian space. So for those of you who might not be as familiar with our organization, I wanted to set the tone with just a small video of what we're doing. So all that action you see actually occurred at Santa Anita Park, which is one of First's premier racetracks. And while it has a deeply rooted racing history, it was also home to the 1984 Olympics and will again take center stage in 2028 as we host the Olympic Games for the 2nd time, this time with the introduction of 3-day eventing and a cross-country course. And while that's something we're tremendously proud of, there's also so much more we can do to program this facility year-round and really create a dynamic equestrian ecosystem. So everything we do from our approach also stems from the love of horses, and we took a 4-pronged approach to this new division. We wanted to complement the racing calendar by integrating premier events that create a dynamic equestrian ecosystem and space. We wanted to develop meaningful pathways to engage a new generation of fans, and we wanted to elevate awareness and attendance at Santa Anita Park. And lastly, we wanted to integrate thoroughbred elements and racing elements through all of our programming and marketing. And so from those ideas emerged First Equestrian. So First Equestrian is a new division of First. It links racing with the love and goal of attracting a new generation of fans to equestrian sports. We're doing that by investing in top quality infrastructure and also strategizing strategic partnerships through the equestrian landscape. So in 2025, some of those partnerships included our 2-week show jumping events with Split Rock Jumping Tour, with the Winter Equestrian Festival in Wellington, Florida, and a continued partnership with the Compton Cowboys and the Compton Junior Equestrians. And with each partnership, it was really important that we weave these natural racing elements into the broader world of horse sport to deliver and educate and engage and hopefully grow both audiences. So here's an overview of the infield at Santa Anita. In 2024, that was completely transformed to be a world-class show jumping venue and to host the highest level of show jumping competition. In our first year in partnership with Split Rock, we actually hosted a national show and a 5-star World Cup qualifier show, which is equivalent to like a grade 1 stakes race, which is a pretty amazing beginning to our brand. In 2025, we were actually able to scale that competition by hosting a 3-star show and maintain our second week of competition with a 5-star and World Cup qualifier. We had more than 500 horse rider combinations from 20 nations for a fully sold out event of 5,500 attendees. So here's a quick overview of the property. You'll see the background is our Santa Anita Historic Grandstand. And you'll notice that all the infrastructure improvements actually live within the infield of Santa Anita. So to really complement the racing calendar and not hinder the racing opportunities. You'll see that there's 2 additions of infrastructure of competition rings. You'll see 2 dedicated warm-up rings. We've also introduced a grazing strip so that these horses can get out after competition and hand graze. We popped up 600 dedicated stabling stalls, 10x14s for these horses. And then in order to keep our track surfaces safe, we actually engineered a bridge that spanned the width of the turf course so that these horses and competitors could get over the track surfaces safely. Here's just a quick live shot. You'll see the competition arenas in the infield. You'll see the tents at the back in the parking lot. And so like everything we do with our marquee events, whether it be Pegasus or Preakness, we're really looking for innovative partnerships and new immersive brand experiences. So for show jumping specifically, we partnered with a company, a Delilah partnership, which really brought in a Hollywood glamour, considering we're just a stone's throw away to Hollywood. They brought the infamous Delilah band, and we had the showgirls donned in feathers to just really elevate the vibe of the Grand Prix, which is different than what you would see at other horse shows. We also introduced a country western bar called Bee's Saloon, and we programmed that with a West Hollywood nightlife bar called Desert 5 Spot. And all of this is to really grow the audiences and drive attendance to Santa Anita Park that are kind of outside of the core racing or equestrian sport industry. Quick event recap. So we had over 700 horse and rider combinations in 2025. We had 18 Olympians compete this year. As I mentioned earlier, it was a sold-out event of 5,500 attendees. What is most impressive for us was the 115,000 live stream viewers. Just for context, in our inaugural year, we only had 13,000. So this is really proof that we're growing a new audience, and we're driving that attention to Santa Anita. And lastly, we awarded $1 million in prize money. And so while our strategy remains focused on Santa Anita, we are extending strategic partnerships outside of that as well, and looking to drive attention to Gulfstream Park. And we did that through our partnership with the Winter Equestrian Festival in Wellington, which is really the epicenter of show jumping throughout the winter months. They run 12 consecutive weeks of horse shows, and it's really a full immersive experience. So First Racing, or First, was the title sponsor in week 5. And we really weaved some thoroughbred racing activations through that as well. We had a hospitality moment where we introduced the Pegasus Paloma cocktail. We had a first vendor booth activation where we were getting sign-ups to First Bet and also a chance to win tickets to the Pegasus. We showed our simulcast and our competition, our Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita races in the Grand Prix ring. And finally, we played Pegasus World Cup live for all of the competitors at Wellington. Another really important relationship for us that was fostered in 2022 is our relationship with the Compton Cowboys and the Compton Junior Equestrians. Their program, based in Compton, really provides access, representation, and opportunity for underserved youth. It helps to reduce the financial barriers and cultural barriers so that these kids and youth have access to equestrian sports. A really good success story of that is Zoe Noelle Brogdon. She actually is a member of this program and was able to compete in the 5-star week of competition at Santa Anita. She's not only a wonderful spokesperson for the brand and an ambassador, but it's amazing to see her efforts grow in both her riding career and her personal development. And this cross-promotion between the Compton Junior Equestrians and the Compton Cowboys helps first to reach a new and diverse audience. Another way we're driving attention to Santa Anita and just first as a whole is through our social and content. And we really put some emphasis on that this year. And like everybody, you'll see like some impressive stats on the screen. We had 3.5 million impressions, but what I think is most important is the growth. So we had 629% growth of year-over-year profile views. And of that percentage, 62% were non-followers. So we're really retaining our current fans while also growing a new audience. Of some of our viral videos, we had over 190,000 views, and that was different experiences like an undercover course walk. We had Carl Cook do a morning gallop, and also McLean Ward, US Olympic medalist, and Bob Baffert, renowned trainer, also really dive into a course walk during the night of the Grand Prix. So I just wanted to highlight a few of those social media clips for you. So this is Carl Cook. He won the inaugural 2024 horse show, a Grand Prix 5-star, and he wanted to ride a racehorse. So we were able to get him out on the Santa Anita track in the morning for a little morning gallop. So.
I love that there's no other horses on the track, but the one Carl Cook is on.
Exactly. We gave him the best chance. And so Carl was equally as excited. He was such a great ambassador for us. He actually said he would do anything we wanted if he got to ride a racehorse. So this is a hot mic undercover course walk with our very own Nikki Walker and Kate Patterson. Just another fun video that went viral on Instagram and TikTok.
If I could ride a racehorse, and that happened, so here we are.
Go to the front A of the triple, walk the line backwards.
The people in the tent are very confused.
I'm all for them thinking I'm doing something intentionally.
It's one of his new tactics. Can you go up to Skylar here and just make sure she knows that you're an Olympic medalist?
I just want you to know that I'm an Olympic medalist. I just wanted to tell you that.
And if you could just canter the line here.
What's the right lead?
Carl, if you would have cleared that, I would have left the building.
So that's just a fun way to show that we don't take things too seriously and we're just engaging a new audience. So I'll wrap it up. What's next for First Equestrian? Well, we're really setting the stage for future. We're going to continue to execute new horse show opportunities. We're going to prepare the facility for 2028 and the Olympic Games with the development of a cross-country course. And we're going to continue to work with our various partners to really engage the local community and the equestrian community and grow both audiences. And I just want to end on a quick note. I think the trainers and owners and jockeys at Santa Anita really did help develop and adopt this new division. It was great to see that they were kind of watching the competition throughout the course of the 2 weeks, year over year. And it was also great that the competitors took an interest in racing. You would see every morning that they were out at Clocker's Corner, they were watching morning training. And so I think this is just a great example of something that can be an addition to racing. It certainly doesn't detract from it. And hopefully, in turn, it grows both audiences.
Thank you, Ashlyn. Round of applause for. So just one quick question from me before we take, Robert, do we have time for questions from the audience? No, we don't. We don't have time. But I just want to be clear. I think that a lot of people, when you look at the behemoths in racing like Churchill Downs and First Racing and Naira, it's easy to criticize. And I've heard a lot of people talk about how this is something separate from thoroughbred racing, and I think you've made it clear that this is a way to engage the equestrian community, but was that sort of the goal from the start?
Absolutely. We only wanted this to complement the racing calendar. If you look at our programming, it's strictly when the horses are only training or when the horses have relocated to Del Mar. So it's truly meant to be a complement, not detract.
Great, thank you. I think they all deserve a round of applause. Thank you all for listening in.